Brother Trucker, folks, in Andy Fleming's downtown. We're here on the Fallon Forum today talking about important issues, as it proudly announces on our marquee. Wally Taylor, an attorney with the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club, joining us later in the program. Also, State Representative Dan Kelly. We're going to talk about his participation in the Urban Ag Institute and related food issues. We'll also get his take on the. He's a politician. We got to get his take on the butter cow. Come on. Also joining us, Ron Yarnell. We're going to talk about why Ron hates capitalism. How un-American can you get? We're going to talk about ALEC. He's got some thoughts on the developments in the recent week about ALEC. We're also going to talk about other important things. Trust me, they're going to be very, very important, and you're going to want to stay riveted to your screen because you know how big a fan I am about screens. Anyway, it is kind of ironic that a guy who spends an hour in front of a camera every day does not own a TV. Anyway, life is full of ironies, and I'm happy to do my part to promote that.
What's up with that, Ed?
I don't know what's up with that.
Boy, and you know, you're right. We actually only talk about important things on your show. We leave the unimportant.
No, only when you're here. When you're not here, I talk about unimportant things.
I heard your show a couple of times this week. They were all important issues.
Okay. I had a very interesting show earlier this week with the spokesperson for the Animal Liberation Press Office, who had no trouble with, in fact, glorified the destruction, vandalism, desecration, if you will, of the Iowa State Fair butter cow. He kind of liked that situation. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, I had a really good conversation too.
Does he live in Iowa?
Apparently not. I don't even think he had such limited knowledge of agriculture that even I think we urban folks could have embarrassed him with a few facts.
Okay. I mean, you mess with a lot in our state, but you don't mess with our butter statue.
That's right. It's art, man. It's not. It's okay. It's a whole bunch of butter. But anyway, I enjoyed having the guy on the show. I appreciated the fact that he was willing to come on and dialogue for a half hour, knowing he was probably on, unfriendly turf. I celebrated, though, by having an extra portion of butter on my French toast that morning and the steak sandwich.
Did your heart beat a little harder then? Did it kind of give you a little race?
No, not at all, actually.
You're like the
I wrote it all off of my bicycle.
I know. You're like the physical fitness paradigm there. So
yeah, that's right. Hey, well, before we dig into some really important issues, I got to tell you, I got to thank the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club for sponsoring the Fallon Forum. I also got to thank the Iowa chapter of the Physicians for Social Responsibility and the Great March for Climate Action. And I want to thank Gateway Marketing Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our show, and all of my business supporters, including Dan Kelly's real estate business out of Newton. Again, give Dan Kelly a shout if you'd like to buy or sell a home or business in Newton. And I also want to thank Kim Holding with Story County Veterinary Clinic. And Kim actually called in during that conversation with Jerry Vlasic with the Animal Liberation Press Office. And, she has some good points. And it inspired me to rise to a point that I thought was a good one as well. Where do you draw the line? Okay, so you're upset about livestock being raised at all, I think, is really where some of the folks are coming from. But how far down the life chain do you go before you stop caring? I mean, I go out there and I dust my eggplants with an organic product called Rotenone. It slaughters the flea beetles. I put Dipel on my cabbage. It kills all the cabbage lopers. I mean, they die horrible deaths, scratching their way through this little substance that just decimates them. It's horrible.
Can you bring in the film about this that we can put up on?
I would have to put up a slow-mo, one of those time-lapse cameras at night to show how much damage these things do.
And then that would change your rating from a family program to an hard.
No, it would just be the Nature Channel. Right. But so I mean, really, where do you? I know nobody who gets bent out of shape about flea beetle destruction or about cabbage lopers, or, the cabbage worms, or slugs for that matter, being decimated by Dipel. Nobody's up in arms about that. The Animal Liberation Front is not out there liberating flea beetles.
That's very lapse of that.
Okay, so let's get on with the important issues. All right. I'm dying to know more about why you hate capitalism so much.
I don't hate capitalism, but that's an over-the-top characterization. I do think people need to understand capitalism more than they do. They need to understand.
And here you are to enlighten us.
Well, one thing that I figured out through the years about capitalism, it cannot function unless it has a constant supply of cheap and docile labor. Just doesn't work. Someone somewhere, actually more than just someone, a bunch of people have to be in sweatshops, have to be in slavery, have to be in awful conditions Otherwise, the whole system collapses like a house of cards.
Okay. And I don't find anything inaccurate with that analysis. I mean, here's my concern, is we tend to call everything that is free market capitalism. And I make a huge distinction between unbridled capitalism that does not respond to, that has no checks and balances, where there's no system for preventing monopolies.
Capitalism doesn't accept checks and balances because capitalism in and of itself believes it should have it all. It believes that it is the ultimate justice in the universe, that it provides the greatest good for the greatest amount of people, and therefore to check it in any way is actually immoral.
Folks, if you'd like to call and tell Ron just how wrong he is, you're welcome to do that. Or maybe you think he's right.
Well, if anyone who reads Ayn Rand and likes Ayn Rand, they're going to call in and say, you're right about that.
The Ayn Rand crowd. Hey, the number is 855. It's toll free, 855-244-0077. You can always email me as well at fallonforum.com. And later in the program, I'll give out Ron's personal email, his cell phone number, and his place of residence, so you can take the issue personally to him there. No, okay. So let me say this. I agree with criticism of capitalism. I mean, again, unbridled capitalism, or as Mitt Romney, I believe, and maybe some other even leading Republicans have called it, crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is not that different than what you're describing.
Well, ultimately, it all becomes crony capitalism.
Well, no, but there's a difference. There is something. I mean, I call it the free market, a minimally but reasonably regulated free market. So you've got fair rules, and you've got strong antitrust laws to prevent monopolies.
But there's no
that works.
Well, here's the problem with the free market. There's no such thing as a free market. It's as much of a unicorn as when communists pine for the classless society.
Oh, now you're going to bring unicorns into this.
Yeah. I mean, people are always struggling to exert power over the marketplace. It's a constant battle. It's never the free market. It is a market that's always being contended. Oh, and the other night I went to see a movie, Pacific Rim, which I'm not endorsing because it was kind of a lame movie. But the basic premise was you had these monsters come from under the earth, from some other dimension, and they were fighting these giant robots. And I think that's a pretty good metaphor for what capitalism is like. I mean, it wreaks destruction, and when it falls over, if you're the person in the wrong place at the wrong time, guess what? You get crushed.
But do you accept my premise that there is a distinction between unbridled capitalism and a reasonably regulated free market?
There is no free market. There is a marketplace. But the marketplace is always being fought over, and there are people who exert, and there are entities who have various levels of control over it.
When I use the word free,
see Bill Gates about that.
Okay, well, free to me in that context means that you are free to get into the profession, the business opportunity that you want to, that you feel drawn to.
And you can't do that.
Well, you should be able to do that. I mean, if you want to be a hardware store operator, if you want to be a small farmer, if you want to...
You can't do those things because the marketplace is controlled by forces that mitigate against them. You can't...
Well, no, it shouldn't be. I mean,
in the age of Home Depot and the other, and Lowe's and all the other big stores...
But that's the problem with policy.
You can't be a small hardware owner anymore.
But that's the problem. We have laws right now in place. We have a system in place. No, it's not. It's policies that have allowed these large corporations, these chains, these category killers, if you can call them that, to come in. Like look at Borders, look at Barnes & Noble, who are now being displaced by Amazon and whatnot, and Kindle. But these come in and they destroy the local book scene. Now, we only have 2 local bookstores in Des Moines. You look at grocery stores. Walmart becomes the biggest retailer, not because it's more efficient or they deliver a healthier product or because they have better customer service. They have laws and policies and the tax code on their side. That's wrong.
But how do those things get on their side? Because those entities can generate more money. Therefore, that translates into more political power. Therefore, they shape...
Well, but that's where the model falls apart. It should not translate. More money should not translate into more political power.
How do you prevent that?
Well, through good campaign finance reform laws.
And how does that happen?
Well, we got a long ways to go. And also through having candidates run for office who actually, connect with the people. Again, this is easier to do at the smaller units of government, city council, supervisor, state house. But it's hard to do as you get into Congress.
You're telling me that over the next couple of years, every presidential wannabe in this country is not going to want to connect with Iowans?
I think they will until the Republican Party kills the Iowa caucuses, which might be next time around. I mean, they're getting darn close.
I want to say this. The free market, I think, is a suspect idea. I don't think it exists. But what I heartily approve of is free enterprise. I heartily approve of entrepreneurship. I heartily approve of what you're doing, Ed. I heartily approve of the Fallon Forum. I think that your enterprise does far more good for the public, even though, I mean, it's a nonprofit business, but it's still a private enterprise. It does far more good for the public than CNN or Fox or any of those major outlets, which, if anything, only manage to distract and delude people. All right, I would like to see more entrepreneurs like yourself informing people on issues. I mean, I don't always agree with you. I have some bones.
Right, you can't be right all the time. This is true.
And you're not, and I'm okay with that. But, at least we got like a local even keel, even plane on that. We're talking about our situation in our lives here.
Hold on a second, Ron. You've undergone a transformation. I mean, a second ago you looked like your usual self with your silly New York hat, and now look at you, Ron. You've changed, Ron.
Oh,
Ron, Maddie, what happened to Ron? Come on, bring him back, will you? Gosh, Ron. I tell you,
what's up with the?
What's up with the unicorn? Well, you brought the unicorn.
I know. Mia Corpa.
You're kind of a pretty-looking unicorn.
With a waterfall.
I mean, what could be better, Ron?
I don't have a bring
maybe
Ron
you should
back
go with
button.
Is that the unicorn speaking?
No, that's my bike speaking.
I go by many names.
I would ride a unicorn if I could afford one.
It's the invisible spirit of the studio.
All right. Well, we want to continue this conversation. I know we promised we were talking about important issues, and then I have to throw a unicorn up there. Actually, I'm blaming Maddie. It's all your fault. Yeah, behave yourself back there in the studio. Ooh, she's getting feisty now.
She's just a unicorn file. You're not going to...
A unicorn file? Unicornophile?
That's my mother.
I'm neutral on the issue of unicorns.
All right. Well, let's go. I got to go to a short break here, but we should talk about this some more. But I don't want to beat a dead unicorn or a dead horse for that matter, especially in a week where we've been discussing horse slaughter. But I do want to talk about Alec and also about your take on the continued disparity, the growing disparity between the wealthy and the poor in this country. So,
today is a great day to talk about that.
And why is that?
Because it's Assumption Day. It's a big day for the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's a big day for the Magnificat. And you might be familiar with the Magnificat and kind of weighs in on those issues.
Okay, well, you said some religious words, so I'm thinking that somehow, somewhere in Des Moines, Frank from Des Moines knows it just happened, and we may be getting a call from him, but I hope
Frank
not.
can always call in.
Frank can always call in. That doesn't mean they have to take his call.
That's what I say. Ed, you may have a different Frank policy.
Well, once a week is what we try to limit Frank to once a week. Anyway,
let me put it this way. Let me put it this way, Frank. You can always call Ed.
All right. Thanks to Gateway Marketing Cafe for sponsoring this segment of our show. If you'd like to participate in a walk to warm up for the Great March for Climate Action, a bunch of us tend to meet at Gateway Market, and we kind of rotate this around to other places too. But we've been meeting at Gateway Market at 9 in the morning on Sundays. Following a great walk is a great brunch. And Gateway Market has that they have breakfast, lunch, and supper there. And a great grocery store with lots of products from local sources. Check them out, folks. I also want to thank Community CPA and Associates, founded by Yingsa, located at 3816 Ingersoll Ave in Des Moines, and now the 10th largest tax and accounting firm in the state. I also want to thank Diana's Wedding Cakes. Diana's Wedding Cakes is out of Newton, and I am curious as to whether or not they also make cupcakes. And we're going to have to find out, because I'll bet Dan Kelly knows a bit about his fellow Newton business. I'm curious about that, because I'm talking with somebody who wants to make a heck of a lot of cupcakes. Anyway, later in the program, Dan Kelly is going to join us. Also, Wally Taylor, the attorney with the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club. We're going to talk about the conflict between Governor Branstad and the EPA over water quality issues, and that's a pretty important issue this week, because the new head of the EPA is coming to Iowa this week.
Governor Branstad's in a conflict?
Yeah, imagine that.
Shocked.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes, folks, and Ron Yarnell will be sticking around so we can continue to beat up on him a little bit.
State Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by